Hello and welcome everyone to The Last Rep. I'm Bob Chickarella along with my co-host Peter McGuff. Peter, what a great weekend in New York. It was 75 and sunny in the Big Apple.
It was an idyllic weekend. Too bad we spent most of it inside a theatre with 1,000 sweaty bodybuilders.
Well, that's for sure, because prejudging was sold out and the night show was sold out in advance. So for the first time, they actually had people waiting. They sold standing room only. So I got to assume that Steve Weinberger was very pleased with the outcome.
Oh, I think he was, and I think I heard he might be looking for a bigger venue to accommodate even more people, because he could have probably sold that out twice over.
Well, bodybuilding off the hook these days. Record numbers throughout all the shows, NPC and IFBB. And, you know, the Big Apple I always look forward to going to. I'm from New York, of course. But that's a great venue and a great competition. And we needed a major competition because we've had, you know, a lot of B-list shows, obviously, since the Arnold. We haven't had any major shows. Was this a major show?
It absolutely was. New York's always a highlight of the bodybuilding calendar. The fans make it that, their reaction and everything. And this was a show filled with fresh faces, and there was a lot of changes from morning to evening, and a lot of controversy, a lot of talk about.
Controversy? Controversy, Peter.
Controversy, as Sir Lawrence Olivier would say.
Ah, yes, very good. Well,
and he could bench press,
I heard he benched 315 once.
He did, yeah.
See, yeah. That's what I like about you, Peter. You've always got that other side of things. Controversy.
Yes, controversy.
So there was lots of controversy, and part of it in the pit itself, Peter, you were down there doing the play-by-play, but if people were watching it on MD line at home, they thought it was coming from Vanessa Campbell. So does Vanessa know that much about bodybuilding, or was that your words?
It was my words. I don't know what the snafu was, but it all came out as Vanessa's. So the good thing was she took all the flack for the dumb comments, and I was left pristine.
So you only owned up to all the good stuff, of course.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Vanessa, she competes obviously in the IFBB Pro Bikini, and there was lots of bikini, figure, women's physique on stage. Peter, what did you think about all the women's events? All right, moving on to the 212, and that did keep your eyes open, Peter. We had a couple of names that came up initially, of course, Jose Raymond being one of them, Sammy Al-Haddad making his IFBB Pro debut, and Kevin English, who seemed to be on the fence between going in the Open and going into 212. Was he ever really going to go in the Open?
Yeah, apparently, well, not apparently, I did talk to him afterwards, and during the winter he was thinking of doing the Open, and then rethought it out in January, February, decided to do the 212. Of course, with Kevin, he didn't have his best outing at the Olympia, even though he won the showdown last year. And the thought was, is it coming too much for him now to crash down from 260 to 202 down to 2012? So, the truth is he was not at his best, particularly during the prejudging, and I for one didn't see him as the winner.
Now, in all honesty, Peter, I just want to stick on that for a second, but wouldn't it have really been a disaster for him to go in the Open? I mean, he is the reigning 212 champ, 202 as it was when he competed in it. Yeah. But why put yourself in the Open? Why throw yourself to the wolves against the big boys to possibly get your head kicked in? You know what I mean? Like, why would he even contemplate going in the Open?
Well, maybe it is something to do with the weight. I mean, in the condition he was in the 212 class, he wouldn't have done very well in the Open class.
No.
But maybe it must be a sign that maybe it's been more difficult. He is looking a bit like a warhorse, crashing down from 260, 270, 202, doing it every year, sometimes twice a year. Must take its toll. So maybe that's the reason why he was thinking, well, I'm not going to be so harsh on myself, and I'll be better and fresher and healthier competing at a body weight way above 212.
Well, was he better, fresher, or healthier looking?
No, and he's such a nice guy and humble and everything, and you hate to say anything detrimental, but it's a physique contest.
Sure.
And he certainly wasn't the best Kevin English ever, and this is two contests in a row where he's not given him his best, so one wonders what the future holds for him.
Well, Sammy Al-Haddad, who making his IFBB Pro debut. Now, we've seen Sammy's name over the years. He was kind of stuck in the amateur circuit for a while, being that he's from Bahrain and that whole business. And then he had a brief stint, I think, with the PDI when that was going for 2 seconds. But now he finally got that IFBB Pro card, and so he came in with much anticipation. Did he deliver?
Absolutely. I think, this was like the most spectacular New York entrance since the Lincoln Tunnel was opened. I was surprised how good he was. I was surprised immediately how tall he was. I thought he was a little guy, but he was big. Sure. Everything was put together from head to toe, the shape of his muscles, they all flowed together. He had everything, the hanging hams, the calves, great biceps, good separation, great serratus, and a personality as well. He really connected with the audience. So it's probably one of the, the best debut, certainly one of the best debuts in this short-lived 202-212 class.
Sure, and
he should have won. I mean, it was to me it was pretty clear.
To me too. I mean, I thought it was pretty cut and dry, actually. I'm not even so sure I had Kevin English in second. Jose Raymond came in, while arguably not at his best. I've seen Jose a little bit, just a little trimmer where he had more separation. He was big, he was veiny and vascular, and he had good conditioning, but he just seemed like he was a little bit too full for his height, making him a little blockier. But I could have had him behind Jose. I could have had Kevin in third.
Yeah, I mean, Jose, you know, what an honest guy. He said afterwards, he says, yeah, I was a little bit off, and when I'm off, all my structural flaws are thrown in sharp relief. But certainly, during the pre-judging, I would have had him, you know, beating Kevin. Kevin did fill out in the evening. I mean, there wasn't a lot of separation in him at the pre-judging, and one would think, well, he needs to deplete more, but that wasn't the case. He had to fill out, so as the muscles were pushing against the skin and showing the separation. Sure. That's what he did. It's a lot better in the evening, but still not good enough to beat Sammy. It would have been interesting to see Sammy in the open class.
Given this, now, even though Kevin wins this show, I mean, arguably, he's not at his best. He seems to have some muscle tears. Definitely his best day seems to be behind him, at least. Should he call it a day at this point? I get that feeling, Peter, if we see him at the Olympia, he could go 5th or 6th.
Only Kevin knows that. You know, he is a champion. He did improve tremendously from the morning to the evening. This will come as a bit of a shock to him. He's getting all the feedback. I wouldn't write him off just yet.
All right. Well, thanks for that report, Peter. That concludes the 212 review. When we come back from the break, a new Olympia contender emerges in the Open. MD Supplement Superstore, #1.
Hydrolyze Ultra, the leader in cellular hydration water, has been designed by shrinking and reshaping molecules to allow a faster and more sustained delivery into your cells, along with adding electrolytes to our special ingredients. This allows all nutrients to be absorbed at a maximum cellular state. Get the advantage that top athletes have achieved. Try Hydrolyze Ultra today. Visit hydrolyzeultra.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Well, Peter, we left off with the 212, and we'll see how that continues on throughout the year. A couple of shows still coming up. We'll see if anybody new makes their emergence into the 212 showdown at the Olympia. But it was the open competition that, of course, gets all the fanfare in New York. The fans very vocal at this one. And this one was unique because we had 3 rookies going into New York who all emerged as obviously contenders as we got into through the pre-judging. Right. John De La Rosa, Juan Morel, and Steve Kuklo. John De La Rosa, from their huge audience and fan base in attendance, they love this guy.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, he was built for New York, wasn't he? He's got muscle everywhere. He's not the tallest guy there is, so there's always that little, you know, backstreet fighter element in there. Yeah, he's got every body part there. It just needed to be a bit better conditioned. You think when he gets that off, he's going to be really competitive. He's mentored by Victor Martinez, and now Victor's available again. And there are signs of his physique is a bit reminiscent of Victor in terms of the overall shape and development.
Very much, actually. Yeah. You know, it's kind of eerie in that because you're right. He looks like a kind of a mini version of Victor. And it was great to see Victor, by the way. We saw him. He was in great spirits and shaking hands and saying hello to all the fans. And he's really looking forward to kind of getting back in the swing. It looks like he's already put on a few pounds.
Well, apparently he's been out now, what, 3 weeks, just over. He's put on 35 pounds.
A little over 10 pounds a week. That ain't bad.
Muscle memory.
At this rate, it'll be about 340 pounds if he can make it on the Olympia stage. Right. But you know, John De La Rosa ends up in 5th place here. Very good contender. Is he a guy that we should be looking out for in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this is his first contest. He's top 5. The experience will do him good, and I say he doesn't have to build the body parts. That's the hard part. If you've got no calves, you're never going to have calves. He's got everything. He just needs to hone it and get the conditioning right. Well,
I thought he had enough for 4th place, actually, but landing in 4th was another rookie, Juan Morel, also making his pro debut here on the stage. Well, I thought Juan was impressive to a degree. I thought John De La Rosa was more complete.
Yeah, particularly in the pre-judging. Again, we had this fluctuation. Morel, when he first came out, he didn't help himself by having this unfortunate tan and too much oil.
Very muddy.
You know, there were gaps in his physique, needed to fill in. He's got a great frame. But in the evening, he'd filled out a bit, got a completely different tan, looked a different bodybuilder. But he's still a work in progress. He's got to develop more muscle because he's a tall, big guy, got a great frame. I would have put him, De La Rosa, above him.
Yeah, I had that as well. And Steve Kuklo rounding out the rookie appearances here would obviously make a great spot. Now, a lot of pressure was put on Steve. I mean, he was a guy that they talked about in terms of winning the competition, in terms of taking this title. Did he deliver?
I think overall people were thinking he would win it, and he didn't. And in fact, he could have been fourth during the prejudging. Again, he came out with, I hate talking about tans, but he was too light. There wasn't enough detail on him. In the evening, he changed. He tightened up a lot, got a different colour. The prejudging, I was looking at him and thinking, he's got this tremendous shape. Yeah. He's got every muscle group, but no detail in there. And it was a bit reminiscent, and I hope I'm wrong, of Matt Mendenhall.
I was just going to go there.
Had everything, but just could never get that condition. Now, the fact that he came back in the evening and had more detail sort of relegates that a little bit. But, you know, it just was a sort of flash through my head as I was watching it.
Sure. Well, I talked to his trainer, Hani Rambod, backstage a little bit afterwards. And, you know, he says it's a very, very much a learning process with them. They've never, and this is interesting that he brought this up, they've never had to get ready for a morning prejudging. Now, you think about that, because at the amateur level, you go on Friday night at the night show. So they've only had to learn about getting ready later in the day. Now, that's a big difference, if you're, and obviously with experience in this field, that's a huge difference. It's a whole day's difference. They had to learn how to dial them in early. So he says now they've got some experience with this. But I think Steve Kuklo still has all the attributes to be a future Olympian.
Yeah, he's like, he's front cover model. He's got all the body parts. He's articulate. He's got personality. You know, he's going to go further. He's only 26. Yeah,
very young in the game, and good to see some good young talent. Well, we go from the rookies to the veterans. Johnny Jackson coming in this show late. Nobody really seen him coming. Won a show earlier at FIBO just about a month ago. Then went on to Spain, took a runner-up finish, and very much in contention here. He runs into, the new guy, Cedric, of course, who we'll talk about. But Johnny Jackson seems to be getting better at age. He looks better at 41, Peter, than he did at 40, 39, 38.
Exactly. I mean, Johnny was the veteran of the contest, and if you look at it, he's the only one that competed in a pro contest before 2010, so this was a real fresh lineup.
Sure.
Johnny showed his credentials here. He fought for that second place. He sort of held his own a little bit with Cedric on upper body, but of course the legs, that was Cedric's domain, and that got Cedric home. But Johnny gets in there and he's gritty, and he showed his class.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to give a special shout out to Johnny, because again, just a wily veteran out there now, and he can't really explain it. He kind of gets a kick out of the fact that he's better now as he's getting older. But I think getting rid of the powerlifting, focusing his attention on bodybuilding full time now has really come to fruition now, and I think we are seeing a better physique. He's going to take off until the Olympia. I think he needs a little bit of a rest. And that, of course, brings us to number one, and that, of course, Cedric McMillan. Not his rookie appearance, of course, because we saw him win a show at the Europa. But that wasn't the Cedric we saw here, and I want to get your opinions on that, Peter. And if this guy has what it takes to give Phil Heath a run at the Olympia, and we'll cover that after the break. MD Supplement Superstore, number one.
Hydrolyze Ultra, the leader in cellular hydration water, has been designed by shrinking and reshaping molecules to allow a faster and more sustained delivery into your cells, along with adding electrolytes to our special ingredients. This allows all nutrients to be absorbed at a maximum cellular state. Get the advantage that top athletes have achieved. Try Hydrolyze Ultra today. Visit hydrolyzeultra.com.
All right, welcome back from the break, Peter. Let's talk about Cedric McMillan. Now, this was an impressive physique to me. To me, it wasn't even close, although the scorecard indicated from the morning that it was closer than I would have given it credit for. But with all due respect to Johnny Jackson, who I thought was phenomenal, I thought Cedric was head and shoulders above the rest, no pun intended.
Yeah, I saw it as a straight first victory, unanimous. That's the way I saw it. I mean, he looked terrific at the 2009 Nationals when he won the overall, even though he won the show in 2010. He hasn't been as good ever since, until last Saturday. And then the real Cedric came forward. I mean, he had everything, quality, condition. He's a big, tall guy. He's I very rarely say something like this, but, there's sort of Lee Haney-ish type tones in there, in the structure and everything. Better carbs than Lee. I think he could do some damage.
Well, he did some damage here because, like I say, to me, it wasn't even close. And again, you know, the other guys were in good shape. We didn't have a lot of veteran talent up there other than Johnny. Everybody else was pretty much brand new. But he put out a physique that, to me, was very reminiscent of old school. And you know, this is like bodybuilding blasphemy, but very Arnold-esque. In his presentation, small waist, like I say, about 6'2", 270 or thereabouts. But it's more like the lines, Peter, like the conditioning. He's got like clean lines. He doesn't have that look like a lot of the other guys have. I think he can be an instant threat in any show he goes in, including the Olympia.
Yeah. I mean, if he comes in that condition, you know, everything's flowing together. As you say, there's a cleanness about him, you know, and he just flows. Standing next to even somebody like Phil Heath, he's not going to be embarrassed. You know, he's not going to be decimated. It'll be interesting to see him up in that lineup. But I'm hearing that he may not do the Olympia. He may just go on to the Arnold, which, you know, the last three, he's qualified for the Olympia 3 times now. I think to prove yourself how good you are against the best, you have to get in that Olympia lineup. And the only way to do well in the Olympia is like in life itself. You keep doing something over and over again, you get better.
Sure.
Although my wife would probably disagree with that. But yeah, I'd like to see him in the Olympics standing with all them guys.
Well, not only can he stand with those guys, Peter, but, you know, again, I'm not, you know, I'm as cynical as anybody when it comes to these guys. And I've seen him come down the pike. I've been in the game a long time. He impresses me. To me, he's a bigger threat to Phil Heath than anybody else on the circuit right now. And that includes, to me, Kai Green, Branch Warren, any of the veterans that are out there, Dexter. I mean, you put the name in there. And I think he's a bigger threat for the main fact that he's different looking. He's not the same height as those guys. He doesn't project like those guys. You know, Phil, Kai, all those guys, they're all about the same height. You know, structure-wise, of course, they all got their little differences. But, you know, people have asked me in the past, who do you think can beat Phil Heath? And I've always said, somebody's going to have to be different. Somebody's going to have to bring different to beat Phil. He's different. Yeah,
I mean, it's like when Ronnie was champ. You know, he won on mass, you know. So to beat him, you have to take him on mass. And Jay Cutler eventually did that. You know, Jay sort of took away his aesthetics and got bigger. To beat somebody with the aesthetics of Phil Heath, you have to have an aesthetic look.
Sure.
This guy's got it, and he's bigger.
Why would he not go in the Olympia, Peter? Like I said, this is his third time qualifying, but is there any solid foundation reason why we would not see him on stage in Las Vegas this year?
Well, I always think back when these situations arise to Don Long. Don Long, in his first year as a pro, got third in the Night of Champions, qualified for the Olympia, decided not to do it. Then he got ill, never made it on the Olympia stage. Get on the Olympia stage. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for you. At least get one under your belt.
Well, I don't think there's any question he would immediately be considered for the top 6. And like I say, he could go as high as challenging Phil, you know, perhaps as high as runner-up or, you know, I mean, if Phil came in off, you know, who knows? Maybe Cedric McMillan's Mr. Olympia and finds himself in the winner's circle. But like you say, it's like the lottery, bro. You got to be in it to win it. So I hope he makes the right decision, Peter, and I hope we see him on the Olympia stage. Speaking of stages, Peter, the next IFBB Pro Show just in 2 weeks' time, and then, of course, the Toronto Pro Super Show, a second-year event put on by our good friend Ron Hachey up in Toronto, and a nice opportunity for some guys to get some points trying to get to the Olympia themselves. Yeah,
we'll be discussing in more detail next week, you know, on the show, and well, it's a bit hot. You know, we're in the middle of Florida. It's 89 degrees outside. We've got a suit and tie on.
Yeah.
You know, why don't we start doing something different? Why don't we go on the road?
That's a good idea, Peter. I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, you know, we got the studio here, and, you know, we've been doing the show now for a couple months. I mean, I think it's good, but the behind-the-scenes stuff seems to be more fun to me, Peter. I mean, have you been keeping up with the Kardashians?
The who? Is that a new car? I mean,
the Kardashian. You know, they may come out with their own car, but the reality behind stuff, Peter. Like we talk about behind the scenes. I'm at a lot of the shows. You're at a lot of the shows. I'm with you, bro. I mean, you know, I think maybe we'll put a poll out online to the people, but you know,
well, it's like many times, like last weekend when we had that brouhaha with Steve Weinberger. I was thinking, I wish this was being filmed. You know, the fans would love to see this. That's the kind of thing we should be doing.
All right. You know what? Listen, like I say, we'll put it out to the fans, but I'm with you. I say we ditch the studio, we ditch the ties. You know, we can loosen these up, Peter, and let's kind of move on to. You already got a head start.
I'm done with this.
But you know what? We got lots of stuff going on throughout the season. I got a few things cooking around on my own plate. I think people will find interesting, and your plate as well, Peter. Your plate is full, my friend.
We're out of here.
All right, that's it. Well, for Peter McGuff, I'm Bob Chick. Perhaps the last rep.